The Green Bay Packers get some good news after an ugly loss on the road to the New York Giants. What am I talking about, guys? Before I get into it, take a second to hit that subscribe button. Okay, so the good news for the Green Bay Packers, despite that ugly loss, is that they are still in the playoffs. They are the seventh seed. And before some of you start saying, you know what, we really don't care, stop talking about the playoffs, because I've read some comments where some people are saying that this is a very good Green Bay Packer team. This is a very young Green Bay Packer team, and they believe in themselves. I think this is a case of them looking too far into the future, taking some things for granted. One of them being the New York Giants. Giants really came prepared to win this game. They are hot currently. They're one of the 5-8 teams. There's two teams that are 5-8 that are on the cusp of the wild card. The bad news for the Green Bay Packers is that there are 5 teams tied at that 6 and 7 wild card race spot. One of them being Seattle, the Rams, Atlanta, New Orleans. Thankfully, the Green Bay Packers got some help around the league. The Niners beat Seattle. The Ravens beat the Rams. So that is very good news for the Green Bay Packers, because if the playoffs were to start today, they are the 7th seed, which means they're playing either the Cowboys or the Lions, right? And here's the thing. I think Green Bay is talented enough to win some, either one of those games. I really do. And it's all going to come down to execution and turnovers and takeaways. And what did Matt LaFleur have to say about this loss to the Giants? Matt LaFleur was quoted as saying, "I think our team learned a valuable lesson in terms of if you don't play your best, it doesn't matter who you're playing, where you're playing them, when you are playing, you're not going to win the game. We lost the turnover battle and weren't good enough in situational ball, third down, red zone. We had plenty of opportunities." He went on to say, "This game is about execution, and we didn't execute to the best of our ability." Spot on. I love what he had to say there. And when we talk about playing a team like Dallas or Detroit, if we make the playoffs, we would be facing one of those two teams. It is all about execution and the turnover battle. And that is Packers. You saw they've been on the positive side of that 2 games previous, and you saw the outcome. Green Bay can beat pretty much anybody when they win those battles. So what did he go on to say? Matt LaFleur went on to say that you can look and nitpick at every phase of the game. Special teams wasn't good enough. Offense wasn't good enough. Defense wasn't good enough. All 3 collectively. And when you're bad in all 3 phases, that's what happens. You lose the game. And here's what I think it boils down to is they were bad in all those phases. But when it comes down to it, Green Bay Packers really I thought did a nice job of coming back. And yes, they did get a lot of help from Saquon with that fumble. But, honestly, we gave up, 3 turnovers. So I just looked at that as a like for like. So what did the New York Post have to say about, man, they are riding this Tommy DeVito train right now. But what did they have to say about the Green Bay Packers loss and Tommy DeVito's performance? Tommy DeVito, they said, offensive coordinator Mike Kafka and offensive line coach Bobby Johnson suggested that DeVito, with his legs, exploit the Packers' aggressive defensive front in the second half. And then DeVito did. He ran for 45 yards after halftime. I'm super frustrated because I didn't think that Joe Barry did a good job of adjusting the defense. Obviously, Tommy DeVito was very athletic enough to get out of the pocket, but come on. It is the last drive. You've got to be aggressive, and they just really weren't. This is a much better defensive corners than New York Giants offense and Tommy DeVito. Okay. But Tommy DeVito picked them apart. They just moved down the field with ease, too easy for them. So Joe Barry, very frustrating with the way that ended. And yes, I'm not saying, hey, it's all Joe Barry's fault, because like Matt LaFleur said, you can look at all facets of the game. But I really do think the Green Bay Packers did a very good job to keep themselves in it despite, and that's the really good news also after this ugly loss, is that despite them playing pretty much about as ugly a football as you can get, they still had an opportunity to win it. They obviously didn't come up with that W, but I think with the remaining schedule, when you look at Carolina, you look at Tampa Bay, you look at Minnesota and Chicago, the Packers could win out. Now, they just got to do it. So let me know what you guys think. Go Pack.